What are you seeing in terms of trends that are driving homeowners and installers towards storage, and how do they think about product selection?
The primary trend driving energy storage is, of course, rising energy costs, but you have to understand where those rising energy costs are coming from. So one is the sunsetting of net metering 2.0 and the advent of net metering 3.0. So now you're not banking your energy necessarily. Customers are selling it at a much lower reduced rate or not able to sell it back at all. The other one, which is probably even more pressing than that, is peak demand. So you're starting to see peak demand, usually in conjunction with other large projects in states. Don't want to cause any negative annotations to what some of those projects may be, but we all know what they are when we look at the industry.
Yeah.
But that can, in some states, drive energy costs higher for consumers. Not all, right? You're seeing some states really protect their consumers in that way and the homeowners, but not all of them do that. And just in general, the grid is aging, right? So now you're seeing higher stress periods, especially in states like Texas in the afternoon. And that really is both for the commercial and the residential customer, where they go from 15 or 20 cents a kilowatt hour now to 40, 50 cents a kilowatt hour. And being able to have energy storage that is discharged in those peak demands on a daily basis can save thousands of dollars a year on high demand applications. Even, in emergency response to where now you have a generator or something go offline. So the driving factor is really peak demand, and that is being addressed mostly through the use of virtual power plants or VPPs.
What do you notice right now around product selection and how, in particular, installers, the folks downstream from you, are filtering the wheat from the chaff?
Product-wise, it's usually going to come down to ease of installation and procurement. A lot of manufacturers don't want to keep a lot of inventory. Obviously, you don't want to have too much aging inventory. Batteries have a lifespan if they sit on a shelf, all sorts of problems associated. So, manufacturers, you need to have proper forecasting with your customers to be able to keep enough inventory to where if something pops up, you can react to it, but not so much that the inventory ages out or requires some sort of maintenance or charging cycle while it's in storage. The other side of procurement with that is still VPP, though, right? There are programs that you can offer to installers to get a portion of that VPP money back. So it's not just the homeowner who takes advantage of that. Oftentimes, installers can do that as well. But if I had to pick a hardware one, it would be ease of installation. The more stuff you have in the box, the more complete everything is. That's really kind of the key to making this work. And proper conduit knockouts, that sort of thing. All the little stuff that can shave 4 to 10 hours off of an installation because you've got it all there and you don't have to make more trips.
What about the tenuous nature of supply chain right now? How does that impact the procurement choices, especially on the residential side for installers?
It definitely does have an impact. The biggest thing is it drives fear. Because you see a lot of worry about tariff. That's kind of calmed down in the last 3 months, but before the beginning of the year, it was an everyday thing. You would get asked about how are tariffs going to affect this? What's the chances this change? Things have seemingly stabilized in the last few months to where everyone just kind of understands it's a risk, and they're trying to simply buy as much as they need right away. And again, good forecasting helps with the fear side of that, because if I know that an installer is doing, let's say 500 kilowatt hours a month, and they're clear with me about their installation rate and how big their crew is, I can keep 550 or 600 kind of backlogged for them. Maybe they don't even necessarily have to put a deposit on it because they've been reliable over the last year and I know they're going to buy it. So the fear of not having inventory is causing some people to kind of shift their focus a little bit.
How do you as a business development manager think about the conversation that you have to navigate with folks who are, simultaneously trying to scale their business, but also looking for a good partner who maybe isn't on the finance AVL of their favorite provider?
The best thing you can look for in a partner, whether that's Pylon or someone else, is you want a reliable product and good quality customer service. Pricing is a factor, right? That's always something, but it's a little easier to get in the dirt with other competitors than people might think, as long as they're able to manage that scale. So if they've got the capacity to install at scale, they're reducing their margins a little bit, potentially not having the financing options, but in the end, they're still able to be very functional. If I were back at Missouri Wind and Solar and I was a small company looking to try to grow in some way, what I would be looking at would be failure rates on the batteries, because that's really what's going to be a deal killer. The the standards in the industry, it varies based on who you talk to. In my experience, residential products are going to experience some type of a warrantyable event in about 1% of installations. That's kind of the standard that I've seen. Some people will tell you it's a little closer to 0.75 or 0.5%. Again, I've been doing this 9 years. I've seen the lithiums go up and down in terms of warranty.
So 1 in every 100.
Yeah, roughly 1 in every 100.
You've had the opportunity through your non-Pylontech experience and through conversations with installers who have themselves had bad experiences to kind of get a perspective. What does a bad battery partner look like if I'm an installer? What am I trying to filter out?
The number one thing that you're trying to filter out right out of the gate is something that's not got the proper UL listings, because that type of product does still exist in the market. I won't name names. That's a bad place to put yourself as a company. But if you're careful, what you'll see is if their data sheets may say this is UL 1741 on an inverter or 9540 on a battery, but then when you ask them for the certificate, that can gets kicked down the road and it doesn't show up. That's not very common anymore. It was really common about 3 years ago. But the other one is, what does the warranty procedure really look like?
Yeah.
A lot of times that warranty is prorated to where they're going to give you a credit based on X number of factors, and they're going to try to disqualify that warranty. That would really be the thing that I would look for if I was an installer, would be read the warranty paperwork and see what type of a deal you're really getting into. Another one is going to be net terms, right? Some companies are unwilling to do any sort of net terms whatsoever. So that's the other one that I would look at. So warranty and net terms are your biggest concerns.
Sam, batteries are created in these lab conditions and they're often tested for UL and everything else in what might seem like ideal, perfect conditions. But they're placed in some of the harshest environments, not just in our homes, like garages and basements, oftentimes outdoors and in extreme climates. What are the real design challenges for resi batteries, in particular in North America, and especially as we creep higher into the colder regions of the U.S., North, and even into Canada? How are these systems evolving to handle it?
There's always this balance between system efficiency and cold weather capacity. At a rudimentary level that the average person listening to the podcast will understand, if you've got, and you may have heard this of lead acid batteries, right? If they're frozen, you can't charge them. So you have to understand that most electrolytes are in some way water-based in any battery in the market. I don't care what it is, if it's LFP or anything else. Traditionally, with lead-acid batteries, you would see a reduction in overall system voltage and capacity. There's an entire curve and voltage calculations that can be done to address that and to fix it. LFP, you can actually see cell rupture if you try to charge them when they get too cold. So having sufficient heating capacity, usually through resistive heat tapes, blankets, that sort of thing, to be able to keep the cells at an operating temperature that is optimal for their particular chemistry, because there's lots of different little tweaks that manufacturers will do to LFP to give it potentially a little better cold weather performance without heat. Trying to optimize that and then not lose 30 to 40% of your system efficiency in a day is really the challenge. The natural inclination from people is to add insulation, but most of these places that get really cold also get really hot. I mean, if I just on a road trip, I was in southern Iowa, and on my way through there, it was 90 degrees in March. Well, it would have also been minus 25 in December. So if I insulated that battery and then put it outside where it normally is going to be required to be installed in a lot of locations here in the U.S. for NFPA compliance, suddenly now I've insulated it and I've made an oven. And now I get cell temperatures that are too high. So that balance of how do you heat it and then also keep it cool enough, because you get both extremes and you need a product that's suitable for the entire U.S.
And what are some of the answers that we have? Is it cooling fans? Is it like a liquid system?
Usually in the residential market, it's cell shape and layout that allow for conductive cooling, right? If I take a 100 amp hour cell, I can make a nice little neat block, or I can make a large pouch that's very flat and has more surface area. That surface area has the impact also of increasing C rate.
And define C rate?
So C rate is your charge and discharge rate. Industry standard varies. Most manufacturers are going to be between half and 1C.
You've worked across different verticals, even built your own off-grid home. I'm curious, similar to what some of the things you're talking about in cold weather climates, what are some common mistakes you see installers make when they first start designing solar plus storage systems?
insufficient wire size is the big one, where you get these installations where for some reason the inverters are further away from the batteries than you might like. And the other side of that coin is then not wiring the batteries appropriately. A lot of installers, when they first get into it, they think, okay, I've got this Amphenol connector, I've got a ring terminal, it says it's rated at 100 amps, I have X number of batteries, and I've got 2 stacks, so I'm going to run a set of wires from each stack. And that's not necessarily the right way to do it. You have to look at the actual demand of the system.
Right.
And sometimes they get away with it, right? If it's just a home backup system and it's only ever working hard when the power goes out, which is very uncommon, system inefficiencies and imbalances don't necessarily occur. But with the growth of all these VPPs, it's becoming really important because now you've got the heat of the day, for example, in Texas, you have, 100 plus degrees. Now you've got the inverter working at maximum capacity and you're pulling really hard on the batteries at a high discharge rate. That's when those problems tend to occur. So, making sure that if you aren't sure as an installer, right? So knowing what you don't know, that if you question a part of an installation, you need to ask whoever that battery manufacturer is, whether it's us or someone else, and you need to get a hold of the technical team and do the calculations with them.
Right.
The tools for calculating voltage drop are readily available on the internet. You can download an app to your phone. They're free. It takes 30 seconds to input the data. And if you'll do that, you'll have a lot less warranty issues and customer callbacks 3 to 5 years down the road, which is where those problems usually occur with imbalanced cells. So, as far as the problem of battery wiring, that ends up causing long-term cell failures and premature warranty issues. Oftentimes, manufacturers will still warranty it, but you get kind of a slap on the wrist as an installer, hey, you shouldn't have done that. Well, now you've put out 500 installs over the last 3 years, and you either have to decide, okay, some of these are going to have warranty and I have to fix it, or, you're going to see other issues. So doing it right the first time and making sure that you fully understand whatever brand of product you're installing is going to help you long term.
What do you think the average solar installation will look like? Let's contain it to residential for now, 5 years from now.
I think your average solar residential system is going to lean a little less heavily on solar than it used to. Obviously, solar module efficiency will continue to improve. But based on the load growth in the country of reindustrialization, data centers, that sort of thing, you're going to see continued increases in energy costs, but you'll see windows of low demand, right? So as the population in the country continues to grow, obviously air conditioning, food, heating, all that stuff, but your big energy spikes will be the driving factor of energy costs, right? Globally, you already kind of see this with brownouts in other nations, generally considered third world nations, but that trend will continue. The amount of energy necessary for our country to meet all these demands is in excess of what we produce currently as a whole.
Right.
So the building of transmission, all that that's its own animal. But the easiest way to solve it is distributed generation and storage. I mean, you see even now this trend may grow significantly. There are utilities in Texas that will offer consumers free electricity in the middle of the night and then charge them out the nose through the middle of the day. So those types of installations, your batteries could pay for themselves in months, if not years, right? I mean, it would be very quick in those types of environments. And some of my installers are very successful there because of that very reason, right? So the payback period becomes 2 years right now, but if energy costs continue to go up, that's just going to drop. I mean, the energy prices are rising faster than any inflationary effects are having on battery costs.
You mentioned VPPs at the outset, so maybe I'll wrap with this. How do VPPs change not just the business model for homeowners, but for installers in the coming 5 years?
There's going to be more and more competition for VPPs to provide higher revenue amounts to installers. So they offer energy as a service to the utility is an easy way to understand it. And most VPPs have some form of a credit that they will give back to the individual installer that is in their network. I think you're going to see that market get much more competitive as energy costs go up and the amount of credit that they're able to generate increases. I think that's going to be, it'll become a brand loyalty thing of, one person likes this truck, that person likes the other truck. It's going to be the same where they've got this best deal in their mind with this particular VPP and that's who they stick with because they're already so invested with them at that point.